Roseworthy, Theberton and Waite. I would especially like to welcome the Premier of South Australia, the Honourable Jay Wetherill, and guest of honour, Mrs. Sia Furler. And Louise, we just have a small gift of thanks for you today. Thank you. Thank you very much. Welcome to all our invited guests, many of whom are valued supporters of the Faculty of Arts of the University and indeed of the arts and of education in Adelaide and South Australia more generally. We have a veritable who's who of political and arts industry VIPs here today. I can't mention you all, but I will mention some of you, including Mr. Bob Cohen and Mrs. Gail Cohen from the Cohen Grant Trust, the Honourable John Gazzola, MLC, Mr. Peter Luca, Executive Director of Arts SA, Mr. Simon Lord, Director of Artistic Planning at the Adelaide Symphony Orchestra, Ms. Jane McFarlane, CEO of the Helpman Academy, Dr. Christine Rothhauser, President of the French Benevolent Association of South Australia and Board Member of the State Opera of South Australia, Mr. Alan Smith, Director of the State Library of South Australia, Mr. Mike Tyler, Director and Chair of the AMEB and Principal Officer Arts with Education Queensland, and the Honourable Amanda Vanstone, former Senator and Australian Ambassador to Italy, and Mr. Tony Vanstone. And for taking time out of your busy mornings to join us today, I would like to thank our council members, staff of the Department of Media in the School of Humanities, and staff of the Elder Conservatorium of Music, and colleagues from the wider university community. I would now like to invite our Vice-Chancellor and President, Professor Warren Bebbington, to step up to the podium. Warren.
Thank you, Jenny. Premier of South Australia, the Honourable Jay Wetherill, who I know is on his way in a moment to COAG, but we can't keep a Sia Furler fan away. So delayed your departure to be here. John Gardner, the Shadow Minister for the Arts, Ms. Sia Furler, and the many other distinguished guests who've just been mentioned from the Parliament, industry, academia, and friends of the university. Welcome today. This is a first for Australia, putting an Institute of Music, Media, Technology together in this way. And it's a particular pleasure for me because music is my own field. I'm a music graduate, and it's just great to see an ancient institution like the Elder Conservatorium, which is 130 years old, adapting itself to the very fast-paced change of musical taste, musical preference, musical job opportunities, and musical research problems as they happen now. So we have a vision here for music education, research and community engagement, which we are rapidly making more and more relevant. This, interestingly, the Conservatorium's always been rather at the cutting edge. I can remember 50 years ago meeting Tristram Carey here at the very beginning of the development of electronic music studios in music schools. Really the pioneer synthesizer program was here at the University of Adelaide at that time. Our media program, not 130 years old, 14 years old, but it's a degree which attracts students who understand that the term media now covers a vast array of technologies, of creativity, of experiences and new career opportunities. So it's great we're bringing music and media together in the Sia Furler Institute, and we're very grateful to Sia for giving us her permission to use her name. And contrary to something you might have read in the media, she didn't make a gift to make this possible. This was our idea. We thought such a distinguished Adelaide born singer, songwriter, performer and visual artist was the logical person to associate with this new institute. South Australia is very proud of her achievements on the world stage, and we think her approach, which combines music with visual media, epitomises the spirit we hope to achieve here. So I think there's little more for me to do than to congratulate our musical colleagues for making this contribution to the cultural and artistic fabric of the city. This is going to help us see the musical world differently and ultimately enrich our lives through some quite new experiences. Thank you.
Thank you, Warren. So, we can't all be a Sia, but I think what we hope is that through the CFL Institute we can give our music and media students access to some of the best teachers and industry experts across Australia. I would now like to introduce Professor Graham Kerner, Director of the Elder Conservatorium of Music. A graduate of the Elder Con, Graham is one of Australia's most celebrated composers. In 2014, he was appointed as an Officer of the Order of Australia for his distinguished service to the performing arts as a composer of chamber, concert and ballet music, and through his substantial contribution as an educator and arts administrator. Among his many roles in and outside the university, he is the current chair of the brand new Adelaide UNESCO City of Music Committee, which is part of the UNESCO Creative Cities Network. This launch of the Institute realises the start of a project very close to Graham's heart. Graham.
Thank you, Jenny. Premier, Vice-Chancellor, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome on behalf of the staff and students of the Elder Conservatorium to our launch of a new Institute for Creative Practice in Music and Media. As the Vice-Chancellor has reminded us, the Elder Conservatorium has been the heart of music making in Adelaide for over 130 years. It is indicative of just how important music has been to the South Australian community that we have the longest established academic music institution in the country. The Elder Conservatorium was originally modelled on the traditional European-style conservatorium, and its activities were based around classical, orchestral, chamber and choral repertoire. Now, let me assure you all, we cherish that great classical tradition and will continue to maintain the standards and aspirations of that tradition into the future. But music has changed just a little in the last 130 years, and the Conservatorium has changed and grown with it. The Conservatorium now teaches music performers, creators, educators and researchers across a wide variety of musical styles and genres: classical, jazz, pop, rock, choral, opera, electronica, world and film music, to name just a few. It is perhaps not so well known or appreciated that in many of these changes, the Elder Conservatorium has been a pioneer and a leader. The Con, as we call it, is one of the first institutions in Australia to offer degrees in performance and music composition. It awarded the first Australian doctorate in music as early as 1902, and only a little later it awarded the country's first doctorate to a woman, the pianist and composer Ruby Davey. Over 100 years ago, the Conservatorium established the Australian Music Examinations Board, the national benchmarking organisation for music performance, still headquartered in Adelaide University, and now including pop and rock studies through its Rock School affiliation. The Con founded its pioneering Centre for Aboriginal Studies and Music, which continues past its 40th year with new appointments, facilities and programs. In a prescient move, the Conservatorium established the first electronic music studio in Australia way back in 1962, essentially anticipating the mainstreaming of music technology by some 25 or 30 years. The Con also boasts one of Australia's longest established and most vibrant jazz programs. And let us not forget, it was the fourth Elder Professor of Music, John Bishop, who founded Australia's first multi-arts festival, the Adelaide Festival. So we should celebrate that history of innovation and artistic energy. Recently, the Conservatorium has established innovative partnerships with major cultural organisations, including the State Opera, the Adelaide Symphony Orchestra, the Australian String Quartet and the Australian Ballet for the purposes of creating industry-relevant training and research experiences for our students. We are also currently in discussions with our colleagues in other faculties and Music Tech, the South Australian Music Industry Cluster, investigating the potential for teaching and research in the burgeoning and exciting area of music, health and technology. This is the kind of initiative the Institute will be well placed to host. It strikes me that the institution's impressive innovations and its progressive credentials are belied somewhat by its name, Elder Conservatorium. I ask you, could it possibly sound any more geriatric and conservative? Perhaps we have a branding problem. Not so, fortunately, with the new Sia Furler Institute for Contemporary Music and Media. Thank you, Sia Furler, for bestowing that unique and distinctive name, and thank you to Sia for permission to use your name to define the Conservatorium's latest initiative. An institute that brings together the university's music and media schools to foster teaching and research in contemporary music and media. Our aim is to prepare students for careers in contemporary music performance and composition, film, digital and other new media, sound engineering and music technologies. Our students will benefit from the expertise of distinguished visiting artists and experts in residence with relevant industry experience. And at this point, I'm pleased to announce that the Institute's first artist in residence is Mr. John Lemon, the legendary live sound engineer who works regularly with Sia and has worked with some of the most celebrated names in popular music: Pink Floyd, Christina Aguilera, Spandau Ballet, Smashing Pumpkins, Janet Jackson, Seal, Jennifer Lopez, In Excess, the list goes on. Thank you, John, for joining us here today. Sia's powerful and immensely popular music, combined with her unique visual style, have made her an inspiration to our students who find the synthesis of music, technology and visual media a perfectly natural form of creativity. Our well-established and growing popular music, sonic arts and media programs, which form the core of the new institute, bear testament to that. And the music you hear performed and composed today by some of our students provides further evidence of the depth of talent that continues the great popular music tradition celebrated as part of South Australia's cultural history. Thank you all for your music. Sia is a cultural icon and a model for young, aspiring creative artists. Her artistic achievements, her distinguished international career and her connections to Adelaide make her name the only and logical choice for this new institute. We'd like now to introduce this new institute to you in a very short video presentation which has been prepared by our media school colleagues.
I just wanted to say thank you. It's a real incredible honour to have this place named after me. I want to say thank you to the University of Adelaide. It's very exciting and humbling.
So thank you, Graham, and thank you, Sia. And that was Sia, by the way. And isn't it great to have a new institute at the University of Adelaide named after a successful woman? I would now like to invite the Premier of South Australia, the Honourable Jay Weatherill, to launch the Sia Furler Institute for Contemporary Music and Media. Jay, over to you.
Well, thank you, Jenny, Vice-Chancellor, my parliamentary colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. Well, what an exciting and powerful expression of leadership by both this university and the state of South Australia in this field of contemporary music. I can't imagine a better choice of leadership for this beautiful institute than to have Sia Furler, a wonderfully talented Sia Furler, giving her name to this institute. Of course, Sia's talent has a foundation in her beautiful mother, Sia Furler, who's here with us today. I was telling people when we arrived, the first time I actually saw Sia was in the Austral Hotel She was wearing leathers in a rockabilly band, pumping out some great music one Sunday afternoon down there in Rundle Street. And her obvious talent, including her great capacities as a visual artist, obviously have provided some of the talent pool for Sia. And interestingly, Sia's talents draw across a range of media for her artistic expression. I do want to applaud the university for setting up this new institute and for naming it after one of our most important creative exports. Over the years, we in South Australia have produced really an impressive number of world-class and highly successful contemporary performers. In the 70s and 80s, Cold Chisel achieved fame, belting out some music down at the Largs Pier Hotel and shaking the foundations down there. The Angels, once called the Keystone Angels apparently, made their name by playing gymnasiums at high schools in Adelaide's southern suburbs. Sarah McLeod in the 90s and the Super Jesus were one of the coolest bands in the Triple J firmament. And at about this time, Dave Graney and his moustache emerged from Mount Gambier. And in more recent times, people like the Hilltop Hoods, the Audreys, I Killed the Prom Queen, Wolf and Cub, have not merely captured, but they've defined the musical zeitgeist. So Sia has followed in these footsteps of these fine musicians, but she struck out on a path notable for its originality and for its embrace of the evolving new. It seems to me that Sia, above all else, is thoroughly modern, independent, and what we might call artistically entrepreneurial. Her work defies easy classification. Her concept of performance is incredibly broad. She's as comfortable singing as she is writing massively successful songs for others, and she expresses herself in various forms of media. She takes control of her work and her image in a manner that's worlds away from the arbiters and the shapers of musical styles and tastes. In the light of what we've heard today about the purpose and philosophy behind this new institute, I can't think of a better symbol to provide the name for this institute than Sia Furler. For me, her approach is both about making and publishing the music which represents the future. And it's an ethos that's empowering, and it takes form of all sorts of creative endeavour in a city like Adelaide. Since I've assumed this role, I made the shaping up of Adelaide, the city of Adelaide, and its revitalisation of the local live music scene one of my personal particular priorities. My government has done this by setting up and backing something that hadn't really been seen before, certainly in this state and really around the nation or indeed the world, and that is to locate a music development office within the economic agencies of government. It's the first office of its kind in Australia. It struck me when we had the benefit of the Martin Elborn report that when he analysed the challenges that face the music industry, he could have been describing the manufacturing industry. And yet we did locate our music industry in the same sort of industry support context that we did for our other forms of endeavour. And of course the blend, what's actually happening now, is that what we used to think of boundaries between industries are collapsing, with technology beginning to break down those barriers. So what we've done is we've also sought to encourage this live music sector. It was interesting, Melbourne did a quick study on the live music sector and they expected to find out they led the nation. They found out we did, which was very happy, so we published that and took advantage of it. But we want to do more to encourage our live music sector. We have the power to do this through legislation. We've set about loosening some silly restrictions on the type of acts that can perform, types of day, types of music, and we're going to make sure they're swept away out of our liquor licensing legislation. We've also made the idea of a vibrant city at the heart of our economic renewal for our state. We believe that modern regions compete on the attractiveness of their capital cities, and capital cities can cut through in a crowded international marketplace, in a media-saturated society, and actually give a message about a place and tell you something of the values of a place. And live music is a powerful way in which we can do this. And I saw this on display in Adelaide's sister city at Austin in Texas just a few weeks ago. As part of my visit, I visited the amazing South by Southwest Festival, a music and cultural festival which also has an important ICT element to it. And I was blown away by the number and quality of the elements of that event. I saw for myself how the spirit of that festival has pervaded many local industries, not just the cultural sector, but has helped make Austin a cool and dynamic place to be all year round. In Austin, I realised two things: that creative cities are by nature open and outward looking, and that open and outward looking places are invariably innovative and prosperous. I mean, this is part of our economic future. This isn't just about enjoying music, as wonderful as that is. It's also a basis for which we can actually create a new conception of our state. Don Dunstan understood this back in the mid-60s. He was faced with the similar challenges that are now reaching their crescendo now. He read the book, Lucky Country by Donald Horne, authored in 1964, which said that we need to be more than just a farm or a quarry. He called upon us to be a clever country, not a lucky country. He called on us to actually invest in the cultural elements that expand the nature of what we offered to the world. And this is what Don Dunstan was seeking to do when he built the first festival centre anywhere in the nation. He understood that a city can be a projector of cultural capital, and that this would sit at the heart of the diversification of the economy. And so it's that project that we are continuing with this work. If you, as I saw in Texas, and you see all around the United States and indeed around the world, the economic challenges we face in this state are no different from the challenges that have faced the industrialised regions in many places in the world. And so precisely the kind of qualities we need to foster in this state are represented by an institute of this sort. Ladies and gentlemen, what we're embarking on here today is inspiring for its own intrinsic merits. Just the beauty of music and the joy of living that comes from that. It reaffirms Adelaide's status as a UNESCO City of Music. And we need to be proud of that. That's not something that's just conferred on any city. This is something which is conferred on a relatively small number of cities. We should be proud of it. We should be asserting it. This new institute gives us an opportunity to sing it from the rooftops. Thank you very much, and congratulations.
Thank you, Premier, for that very thoughtful and vibrant speech. And we deeply appreciate you squeezing in the launch before you have to fly off for COAG, and fingers crossed there for you. To mark this launch, we're also announcing the Sia Furler Institute Scholarship Program. The Sia Furler Institute Scholarships will allow students to participate in creative industries events and programs hosted by the Sia Furler Institute, and will assist students with their media and music studies. We currently have over 1,100 students enrolled in our music and media programs, many of whom, to study here, have had to move to Adelaide from regional or remote areas in this state or from interstate and from overseas. A scholarship or bursary that allows a student, like Caitlin and Sam, I know our students who are performing are still at the back there, to concentrate on their music studies and not have to juggle study and part-time jobs, can make all the difference. And those of us like me who were music students know that this is absolutely the case. It was the case 20, 30 years ago, it's even more so now. So if you're interested in getting involved in the Sia Furler Institute in any way, and that might be by donating your expertise or your time, and again we're very grateful to John Lemon for being the first of our experts in residence, so to speak, or you might be able to assist with a scholarship or the purchase of a musical instrument or piece of equipment, then please see the Sia Furler Institute website, which went live this morning at about 8 AM, I think, and the website link is on the posters and also on your flyers. So that concludes the formalities for this morning, and my thanks to the University's External Relations, Media, Marketing and IT teams, and to our ElderCon, Department of Media and faculty staff for their assistance with the website, videos, flyers and posters you've seen today. This has been a real team effort over a long time. It's been kind of in the mix now for just over a year. My personal thanks to Mark Pickford, Faculty Executive Manager, Linda Christensen, Faculty Executive Officer, Greta Larson, School Manager at the ElderCon, the Elder Conservatorium's Professor Mark Carroll, aka Dr. Rock, Professor Graham Kerner, our donors, and of course our Vice-Chancellor for not running a mile when we first discussed the idea of the Institute a year or so ago. On the contrary, everyone stood their ground and contributed great ideas and lots of hard work to make this Institute happen. I would also like to thank our Elder Conservatorium student musicians up the back there. You might just stand for us for a minute, please. Sam Dywell, Caitlin Fagan, Jess Seafang, and Harry Cassidy. So they performed, as Graham said, their own compositions for you this morning. And my thanks in advance to Grace and Rojamar, lecturer in our Centre for Aboriginal Studies and Music, and ElderCon student Hannah Yates, who are about to set up and play for you now, just as we have tea and coffee and some other bits and pieces to eat. So all of our performers signed up for this launch without knowing any details until yesterday, the day before? Yesterday. So it was a real leap of faith, and for that we're very grateful to them. So please feel free to join us for some morning tea. Feel free to talk to the students. There'll be some more music here in a minute. And if any of our guests wish to visit the multimedia classes currently being taught to our students, a brief walking tour led by our Head of Sonic Arts, Stephen Whittington. Stephen, if you just put your hand up for a minute. Stephen's there. We'll be leaving from the back doors in about 10 minutes' time. And specifically, I think Stephen plans to take anyone who wants to see the new 30-seat computer lab, which is used to teach across all our areas in the music programs. Certainly you're welcome to join us on that tour. So now it just remains for me to once again thank Sia in absentia for her generosity in allowing us to use her name for this institute, and for her support for what it will offer our students, and to thank all of you for your time and contributions this morning. Thank you.